Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We now started the committee meeting. Did you do a roll call, Mr. Tifo?
We typically don't do a roll call, but I note that we have everybody here, but Councillor Bean and Councillor White.
Good, thank you. We do have quorum to proceed. We'll call the meeting to order. Please declare any pecuniary interest at the appropriate time, if you have any. Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to bring to the floor, can I move in a second to bring to the floor the COVID-19 update report? And this will just be, these are to receive and file. These are information reports. Mr. Cook? Councillor Miller? Do you want to do one at a time, A, B, and C separately, or all as a grouping? Let's do one at a time for this first one, because I did not differentiate at the start. So, discussion on A. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Number 3, Part B, Funding Announcements Report. Move in a second to bring it to the floor, please. Councillor Rombout moves. Can I have a seconder, please? Mr. Cook, discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Number C, the occupancy reports. There's two parts to that, the report and the attachment. Can I have a mover and a second to bring this to the floor, please? Councillor Miller? Councillor Marriott? Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Part B, other business? Hearing none, we'll go to Corporate Service Division, which there is no business on that one. Any other business anybody wishes to bring forward from the corporate divisions? Seeing none, we'll move into the Finance, Facilities, and Court Service Divisions. Again, we'll do these separately. We'll have a 5A and AA and a 5AB. So a mover and seconder for the Court Services reports. Councillor Rombout, Councillor Miller, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Just a side note, I did call up Ms. Vermeuren the other day and ask her about the retirements and what it is with the, I thought you'd be lawyers going in to be the Justice of the Peace. It's not. Anybody could apply for those jobs if you're interested in them. And they have 11 retiring out of 45. So there's about a quarter of the people are shifting over in the next year with that court division. Thank you. Just a point. Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. I'm just wondering what we're doing to make up for the backlog that was accumulated over COVID.
I think Mr. Tifo have to answer that. But the court division, when the reply back from Ms. Vermeuren, is it actually goes over to up to Owen Sound, across to Guelph. It covers quite a large part of southwestern Ontario. So they have to hire new ones quickly, and there's a 6 to 8 month training period with them. And after that, I'll let Mr. Tifo take the floor.
Yes, thank you. If I understand correctly from Councillor Rombout's, the question was with respect to what we're doing in terms of the prosecutions of the backlog. And we do have what I would call a mild backlog in terms of the Part 1s, the ones that we're currently responsible for, roughly about 600 files. And through the court administration, which reports to Mr. Pilarchio and Justice of the Peace, they've been scheduling them and sort of packing them into the courts with the intent of resolving as many as possible. So there's a lot of resolutions, and typically on terms that perhaps would not have been offered in previous days. And then there's really what I would call a second look at the files in terms of the prospects of convictions to keep them on the docket. So that's the Part 1. So those are the ticketable offenses. As you know, the county is in the process of being downloaded to in terms of the Part 3s. The Part 3s are the informations, the summons, and we're in active discussions with the Crown on those. And in part, the discussion with the Crown on those matters is really not to assume the Crown's backlog on those, given that we don't really have much resources. But the backlog on the Part 3s is a bit more significant, probably around the 1,600 cases. Now, as Chair Ferguson noted, with the significant number of justices of the peace retiring, we are experiencing court date cancellations effectively sort of mid-August right through to the end of the year. And the impact on that on our case backlog is yet to be known. But the commitment, not the commitment, but the approach for our side of the table is, again, to try and deal with these matters on a customer service basis, which means that try to address sort of any issues where possible, where a defendant might raise, so delay issues to resolve those. But it's effectively, that's a long-winded answer to effectively say, taking a good hard look to addressing the matters as quickly as possible.
Good, thank you. Move into 5AB, the electric vehicle charging stations usage report. Mover and a seconder bring this to the floor. Councillor Cook, Councillor Miller, any questions on this? Councillor Rombout first, please.
Based on the number from this report, is this something that we should be looking at, increase in the volume of stations at this point? Like, it doesn't look like the charging stations are being used a lot. So I'm just wondering, like, we do have a committee coming forward, I think, as a county to be looking at this.
Who are you directing that to? Just in general?
Someone in staff, I guess. Thanks.
Just in brief response to the question, I spoke to Ron yesterday. As you know, at the last council, there was a resolution to get let's call it a community-wide committee to take a look at the strategy moving forward, forward-looking for electric vehicle stations. And we're in the sort of preliminary stages of inviting interested parties to that, including potentially the association that represents the retail fuel retailers out there. Those are preliminary discussions. In terms of internally, you saw the numbers. The numbers are fairly low in terms of the utilization. We've had discussions with Mr. Pilarchio, and he can probably comment best sort of where we're at this point in time on that side of things.
Through the chair, just to provide some additional information, I believe I spoke about this at our last meeting, but there's about 13 charging stations that the county installed approximately 3 years ago, and the capital cost of that was roughly in the $155,000 range. We did get some funding back from the province on that significant portion, approximately about $100,000. The usage on those charging stations has been relatively low, but a lot of that could have, basically our COVID realities was a good part of it. Now with, fuel costs escalating and new programs that have been highlighted by the government and so forth, there's a variety of funding mechanisms that we can utilize to see if there's if there's a financial case for it. There have been preliminary discussions with Mr. King, who was one of the lead county individuals in installing the 13 stations here, and we're just looking at potential library sites as a potential opportunity for that. So the preliminary discussions have started, and we're just in the midst of basically putting out some communication to some of our local municipalities and partner organizations to see how this could move forward. Because as you know, climate control and zero emissions is not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and we do need to provide some focus and understanding that all issues are understood and raised. So we're definitely on it from a county perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Pilarchio. Just a side note, and I discussed this at Blue Water Power meeting the other day, on my particular farm, Councilor Roundabout's, Councilor Marriott, we have welders. We can get a level 2 charger and plug in directly with a plug to our welding for level 2. I can get them at some of the major hardware chains or online, anywhere from $600 to $1,500 for a level 2 charger, which is a 6-hour charge on that. So through the countryside, very quickly in the rural countryside, most farms can get a level 2 charger very quickly. Thank you. We'll call the question to the floor. All in favor? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Roundboots.
Sorry, I'm not even sure if this is the time to discuss this, but is there any discussion on what's happening as far as the gas tax is concerned? As our province, as our country moves more into electric vehicles, so far there hasn't been any gas tax put on those charges, but that is going to be an issue down the road if we had more and more that are not relying on the gas, and we rely on the gas tax to fix our infrastructure. Is there any discussion that you guys have heard of? I haven't heard anything yet at this point.
I'll direct it to Mr. Palacio.
Through the chair, very good question. Just so you know, county has raised the same question that Councillor Roundabout has raised. Obviously, you know, with the targets that are out there for 2020, 2030, 2050 as the projected projection of sales of vehicles potentially goes to the electric. You know, what happens with the tax that's not raised from fuel and so forth. So those are issues that all have to be, you know, discussed and balanced as far as provisions. So, but very good question.
Thank you. If I could remark on that one, perhaps we should be getting a letter to the AMO and Roma. I know in our rural municipality, we rely on that gas tax rebate immensely. Somewhere along the line, there have to be still money coming through somewhere to the rural municipalities for infrastructure. So AMO, Roma, should we be putting letters to them? They will be on the radar now, but little push, nudge.
Absolutely. I mean, there has to be direction, and in order to ensure we get our fair share of revenues that we've been accustomed to seeing.
So perhaps we could discuss for the next committee or to next council a notice of motion to put a direction towards AMO and Roma on that, to put a nudge and a push with that. I don't like individual in my own sense that we should go through the proper full-fledged that has better lobbying organizations. So just a heads up for council if they want to consider putting a notice of motion in along that line to get some nudge and pushes. Thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you. We'll move into the Social Service Division, 6. We'll move into 6A, Service Manager Annual Information Return Report. Can I move in a second to bring us to the floor, please? Councillor Cook, Councillor Bushy, discussion? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Go to B, Housing Services Report and Attachment. Can I move in a second to bring this to the floor, please? Councillor Marriott, Councillor Miller, discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. So just a question regarding the quarter 1, quarter 2 comparisons. I see that the numbers are dropped a little bit from this year to last year, yet the arrears are up from last year. Is that just the nature of the housing that's being required to assist these folks that are struggling more? Okay.
Through you to Councillor Cook. The reason that the dollar figure is higher and the numbers are lower is that there was a rent freeze. During COVID, they had the rent freeze on and that was lifted. So we're starting to see more people who've had a rent increase and struggling to pay that. So staff are reaching out to them and working on that right now.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Rounboots.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if staff has any suggestions for this housing crisis that we seem to be in right now. Like, I know there's young people that are trying to find homes, and the prices are just astronomical. And I don't know what the solution is at this point, aside from trying to fast track housing, like getting more housing built. But even the houses that are being built currently are going for above $500,000, $600,000. Like, that's way out of reach for a lot of people who are first-time home buyers. Like, I just wonder, since we're in committee, if we could have a discussion about what some of the solutions would be.
And to Councillor Romboats, that is a really tough one, and I don't have any solutions. I mean, the county has a 10-year housing and homeless plan, and in the plan we talk about the need for more affordable stock. And I think since we developed that plan, you're right, almost everything has become unaffordable. So we'll continue to sort of try to work with local developers, private investors on building affordable housing. And we know that council started a reserve in the last budget, which we really appreciate, and we'll be looking to see if there's additional dollars through both the province and the federal government to do some affordable building. But it is a really, really difficult situation right now. The rents have increased, so it's hard to find a place to rent, let alone as a homeowner. We do have that small homeowners program, but again, it's the price right now is well above what we would be able to provide dollars for. So unfortunately, no, I don't have any solutions outside of our existing plan.
Good, thank you. All in favor of this report? Carried, thank you. Move to the Lambton Work Center, the Employment Services Transformation Update Report. Move on to second and bring to the floor, please. Councillor Romboats. Councillor Cook. Discussion, please. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Any other business on the Social Services Division? Seeing none, and there is no in camera. Got a motion to adjourn, please. Councilor Miller, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.